strawberries, cream, and a little sugar. A simple recipe with a richness and depth that sneaks up on you until you are completely under its spell. My special guest today takes clay and makes utilitarian items that, on first glance, seem simple in nature. A smiling face here, googly eyes there. But there is a depth to the message in those smiling faces on mugs. Find a little happiness in the simpler things. UgChugs is a potter, a musician, and an occasional gamer, but his southern charm, quick wit, and love of his art has quickly made him one to watch. He's creating whimsical mugs that bring a smile to your face and adds a little joy to your day. I'm looking forward to enjoying my nice bowl of Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream and having a laid-back and easy conversation with my friend. I'm Pape, and this is Ice Cream with Streamers.
Cheesecake from the middle, but
there you go. Hello everybody, and welcome to Ice Cream with Streamers. I'm obviously Pape, and today I'm joined by special guest UgChugs.
Hello.
Good morning, Uggs. How you doing today, man?
Hi, everybody. I'm well, and you, sir?
I am doing well myself. As we always like to start, let's cheers our ice cream here. Cheers! All right, thank you. So I'm enjoying this delicious bowl of strawberry ice cream in a hand-thrown bowl. Not one from you though, but we're working on that. But what are you partaking in, my friend?
I have Southern Butter Pecan Premium Ice Cream by Mayfield. This is one of my favorite flavors, and you're having my other favorite flavor today, strawberry.
Honestly, if I could have found that butter pecan, I would have been all over it. Or pecan, or butter.
There's good stuff. butter pecan.
Butter pecan. So, yeah, so I've asked you to join me today to enjoy a bowl of ice cream and just to chat a little bit. And so people who, I don't know, follow me but don't follow you, can get to know you a little bit better. I typically just ask a series of fun questions. So we'll start off with the most obvious one. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Chad Lloyd Nelson. My career is making pottery. I've been doing it for 10 years. I'm married. Been married for 14 years tomorrow.
Oh, dang. Congrats.
And, I have 2 kids. I have a daughter that's 6 and a son that's 2. And yeah, I make pottery.
That's awesome. So so how long you been? So you said 10 years you've been doing the pottery thing, but I mean I assume you've had a longer career in the pottery. Did you stumble into that, or is it? I
took my first clay class in high school at age 14. So and I've had my hands pretty much in clay since then. There's a little spell. I actually went into architecture in college. Oh. But changed after the first semester to the graphic design department, and then that ended up just snowballing into fine arts because I got my hands in the clay again and said, yeah, this is what I want to do. Got out and pretty much immediately started the business. See, I graduated in December of 2007. We started the business in the summer of 2008, and we've been going since.
Nice, nice. So architecture, huh?
Yeah, I actually designed our house and drew it up in AutoCAD, made 3D model stuff, and had it built.
Oh,
so
dang.
I still like that stuff, but you know, I prefer working in clay. The thing about architecture I didn't like was the lifestyle that would go along with, like working for a firm and working like higher pressure deadlines and things of that nature. When we got into like the intro classes and we're like learning about the career and how it actually was, I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be for me long term.
The working for the man as opposed to being the man yourself.
Being the man, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find a lot of artists are in that same boat. I did the same thing. I was like, oh, I'll get into the theater career and do all that, and then I'm like, I just can't. No, it's it fluctuates too much, or the deadlines are so crucial, but then when you look at it from an outside perspective, they're not that crucial. So yeah, my background is in theater there. But so you're in Alabama, right? If I remember correctly.
Yep.
And then you've been. How long have you been streaming on Twitch here?
Since the beginning of July, I started streaming regularly. I had my first weird, awkward stream like mid-June or so. It was a very lonely affair.
The first ones usually are.
Yeah.
That could be taken many ways. What? But now before that one, were you doing anything like in YouTube, or were you just like one day you're like, you know what, I should throw some cameras in here and start showing people what I do?
Actually, me and my wife started the business together. This has a little bit of a story build up to it.
Excellent.
She did the business side of things, so she was in charge of the websites, the shipping, the social media. She had us on. She had an active Pinterest account. Facebook, Instagram wasn't around back then. When my daughter was born 6 years ago, we decided before we even had kids that one or the other of us was going to be home with the children during their first 5 years of life. So she stayed home with the kids and tried to, you know, be an active mom and do the orders and the website and stuff at first, but it just didn't work out. So I ended up having to take over everything. First thing that got dropped was social media. And I did not do any social media until this year. So in 2018, first thing I did was revamp our Facebook, and then I opened an Instagram account, and then started live streaming on Instagram. Loved it. A friend of mine recommended that I'd try Twitch, and that's how I got here. I loved it from the beginning. Well, after that first weird, awkward stream. And then I met some really cool people that helped me out along the way, and it's just been awesome ever since then.
Excellent. So after the because I understand the like, I'm the stay-at-home dad. That's my role here. And while I work in my basement, and that is so that I can be the person who can attend to the children when necessary. After they go to school and stuff, is your wife going to jump back in, or is it?
That's the plan. And we try to get a babysitter for one half day a week at least for her to come down and work. And we're going to shoot for more like 2 to 3 half days this next year. My son should, it depends on how he handles it. We think he's probably going to be a preschool kind of kid. My daughter was not. But we may send him a couple of days a week in the fall. Because it's getting to the point where she needs to come back. We're getting a little busy around here.
Now, is she a potter too, or is
No, she can do everything but the pottery side of things. This takes it takes a long time to get to the skill level required to mass produce things, you know, one after the other consistently. You know, having a consistent same product, and she's not there. I mean, she definitely could be. She can she can do the pottery wheel. But she can do everything else. She can do the glazing. She can do faces on the cups. Of course, she's the one that came up with all of our shipping policy, the website stuff. So everything but this.
But that's not bad though, because if you have somebody who can take the brunt of, because that monotonous work that goes the business side of running a creative business is the part that it eats up so much of your time that you don't even think about. And then to have somebody be able to take some of that work, like I would pay for a PA if they would answer my emails, pack stuff up, and do some social media for me. I'd pay for that hand down. They don't have to lay a finger on anything creative. That would be absolutely the best.
If I could just sit down and make mugs, I could increase my quota 3 or 4 times and maintain it.
Absolutely.
So there's some days, especially this time of year, I'll come in at 6 a.m. and I'll pack orders until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I have to come in and make the stuff. Of course, it's a good problem to have, you know, because you have the orders. And I'm not complaining here, but if Megs was back to do the office things, it'd be amazing.
Now, do you feel that that doing the packaging for 6 hours or 8 hours and then having to go in and try and do the throwing, do you find that your creative drive is drained to the point that you got to jump back into it?
This is kind of like autopilot for me now, the pottery wheel, and it's actually relaxation time to me.
Okay.
So I can sit down, just veg out with the pottery wheel. It is hard to do orders and then come on, do the pottery wheel, or put faces on the cups and stream at the same time sometimes, because, you know, by the time you've packed orders, done office work, and corresponded with people, you know, I tend to get a little cross-eyed, you know what I mean? Just like the monotony of it.
I do understand that. It's wow, that's not good. So one of the we're trying to get your guest command to work here. For some reason, it just doesn't want to go here. So we can shout you out, but for some reason, it doesn't want to do that.
Is Paulbot broken?
Paulbot is not having a good day apparently at the moment.
I could get Dwayne to come over.
Yeah, that'd be nice if Dwayne the bot Johnson would step on over. That'd be great. Because I added 2 special commands just for you today, and neither one of them is working.
Oh,
what it happens.
Yep, been there.
Yeah, there we go. So so you're doing the autopilot thing in that. Do you still find creative fulfillment in the mugs that you create, or do you feel that now you're just the machine that creates the item that you're tethered to create because that's what you're known for? That's a heavy question.
It is. It's very loaded. I say I still thoroughly enjoy what I do. I feel like it serves a purpose. The whole concept behind the things that I make are just to help people smile a little bit every day. And actually hearing from the people that use my things, and actually have people contact me all the time, say, "Great, love it, and it cheers my day up. That's why I'm here," and that makes it fulfilling to me. Helping people smile just a little bit every day.
I think that's great. When I first saw your work, I mean, I'm not trying to offend, but I was like, that seems really simple. Like the faces on them. I'm like, they kind of. But then I got to talking to you, and I consider us friends, and I'm like, that makes so much. It makes so much more sense. It's like, why go? Because, you know, I see fine art sculptors and I see all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, but you're just putting this really silly face on it. But I'm like, it takes skill. One, it's never as simple as it looks, and 2, your philosophy behind it and what you're trying to achieve with it, I think is brilliant. And so I'm like, it makes so much more sense now that, you know, that I see it. I'm like, while the simplicity in the design is there aesthetically, it's not a simple design, and it serves a huge purpose. And I like tip my hat for you on that one. I think it's awesome that a product like that exists and for such a thing. And I'm envious. I want one, and I've chatted multiple times with you about getting one made. I'm like, I need to get one of these. So I you know, kudos to you. Do you ever find that there are times when you're like, let's try something new, let's do something a little different? Yeah,
I do try to challenge myself regularly, and I constantly add new designs to the lineup. And I have folks request things all the time. Like this year, we added a couple of animals. We added cats and dogs. Actually, several animals: cats, dogs, pigs, goat, cows. So there are constantly new things being added. Vampires were added this year. And then as far as challenging myself, I do try to do larger pieces throughout the year. It's like this year I made a chalice that was, I don't know, yay high, but a 1.5 feet tall. Just little things like that to keep it from being, you know, the same old, same old.
Sure.
Those are kind of few and far between, though, especially this year. Keeping up with the production stuff.
Right. No, and that makes more sense. Do you so you're an artist is what you know, as a potter, you're an artist, and you have a very specific style to you. Do you have pieces that you're like, this is my art piece as opposed to this is a utilitarian piece, or do you try to keep things as utilitarian as possible because you want them to be used so that they're not just sitting on a desk or sitting on a wall or something like that?
Yeah, I don't really care how people use them. I hope people do, because they are, you know, I make them in such a way, like you can put it in the dishwasher, you can put it in the microwave, and I have them at a price point like where someone will buy a mug and not just put it on a shelf and actually use and enjoy it every day. I actually started out in the fine art world. I was in art galleries in the beginning, and even like, and I have a fine arts degree. And even then, I was so jaded about what is art and how every single piece seemed to have this deep philosophical meaning behind it, you know. So part of this work is a rebellion against that kind of thing. I think that you can have a concept as simple as helping people smile a little bit is worthwhile, and it counts as art, you know.
See,
do I consider? I'd consider myself an artist, but more craftsman. Wait, we're doing the labels thing.
Well, I don't like to do. I don't consider myself an artist either. So I understand where you're coming from on that one. But again, I'm listening to you describe these things, and I'm like, there's so much depth to it. Much like the intro said, with the simple ingredients that create something really complex and deep. You look at yourself from the surface, it just seems you've got a really, really deep pool behind the products that you make, and I think it's awesome. And I like the idea that it's an everyday, everyman type of work that you're doing, but with a very nice creative slant on it. So the streaming thing, obviously, I've seen you do some gaming too on the side. And I assume that's more relaxation than at the end of the day or on a weekend or something like that, as opposed to something that you're trying to pursue as far as Twitch.
Oh yeah, it's just fun. It's just funsies.
Sure.
I've thought about doing some music, and trying to do more music streams, because actually Twitch has gotten me back into playing this stuff. I played the guitar since I was 10. I played in bands as a high schooler and college student.
Oh.
But I've been out of it for like 14 years, I guess, up until Twitch, and now I can actually use my guitar and stuff too. And it's because it's for work, you know. It's a work thing.
That's right. Absolutely. So you talk about music here. So does music influence the type of work that you do? I mean, does it? I've read that, especially with the spinning that you're doing there, if music is playing in the background, you can actually ingrain that music into the pottery.
I can't.
I believe because they found some old pottery from like I want to say Herculean period, but basically any of these ones that have been like disregarded for a long time, and they use a sonic spectrometer on it, and they can actually hear the conversations that were going on while the pottery is being made.
Oh, so
basically the 4 cups that you got behind you are recording the ice cream with streamers conversation that we're having here.
These are going to be Paul cups right here.
That's right. So but the music, do you find that the music influences your style at all, or sonic resonance, says Psychosis? He's actually one giving us the real deal science behind this here. Do you find that music influences the style of pottery that you're doing, or is it like if you're playing a lot? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think so. Nowadays, you know, I've been doing this for so long now. My mugs kind of land in. I mean, you can see these two right here. They're basically the same. I mean, I kind of hit this autopilot mode, where it just, you know, every piece is about the same. If I were to cut my clay like evenly and just focus on it a little bit, they would be like the exact same over and over and over again. And really, it's more of a muscle memory thing now, as opposed to a conscious effort kind of thing. So I don't know if the music would, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I know that like music, obviously it affects it affects mood, you know, and you know, I know there's days when I'm sculpting and working, you know, depending on the music that I'm listening to, you know, it can definitely, you know, a lot of the sculpting I'm doing is based on muscle memory as well, but I know that if it's an aggressive day or if it's a bad day, just emotionally, your work is going to have that as an influence. And I just
now, I will say, when I first started doing pottery, and when I first turned pro, and I was having a bad day, I'd come in the studio, I just couldn't do it. Like, I would break piece after piece after piece. It's not something that happens now, but it did affect me early on.
So with the music part of it, I'm gonna keep drilling you on this music thing. So is that something that you want to try and produce some more live pieces? Because now we're stuck with this new rule set with Twitch that you can't use music you didn't write. So in theory, and so how are you working around that one by incorporating, you know, with the music that you're playing? Because I know you play a lot of pop music. Not pop music, but
I actually started playing music from Twitch streamers, originals from Twitch streamers, a couple of weeks back. I get permission from them and just play their originals. And there is a ton of super talented, super gifted songwriters here on Twitch that are just like dying to get people to, you know, listen to their stuff.
Sure.
So, as far as producing my own music, I'd love to, and it's really just a matter of time, you know, having the time to do that kind of thing.
It's the one thing nobody has enough of, let me tell you.
Right.
Especially creatives.
Yeah.
So is there, if you were not doing pottery, is there something else that you would be pursuing? Since obviously architecture's out of the question there.
Well, when I got my when I got the art degree, I figured I would be in one of two places. I'd either be here or I'd be teaching at the high school level, more than likely. I was pretty heavily influenced by one teacher, well, a couple of teachers, my AutoCAD teacher and my ceramics teacher at high school. And I always felt like that would be a worthwhile profession.
Okay.
You know, we did do some private lessons, so I'd either be here or I'd be teaching.
Okay.
Teaching
now,
art.
You mentioned private lessons. Is that something that you do, or do you just mostly keep it to the product?
It's something we did. That's actually how we started the business. It kind of kept us afloat month to month. We did adult pottery classes, and then we did kids classes and all kinds of art. We actually had deals with the local schools. We'd travel to the schools and do after-school art, and they'd let us do that and use their facilities in exchange for doing a project with the school, basically. So we did that for years and years. Production takes up too much time now, though. So we finally had to retire from doing the classes.
Sure. So back to the Twitch world here. So do you feel that you're getting a positive growth using Twitch with your business, or do you feel that Twitch is more of a creative outlet for you in a different venue than just the mechanical muscle memory of the creating the pottery?
Well, before Twitch, before live streaming in general, when I would be doing this, I would either be listening to a book or watching some Netflix. Twitch has kind of replaced that. It's enjoyable, and also it's productive, and I love both of those things about it. It's been so great to also the social stimulation. My wife's been on me for a couple years now about coming to work, being here by myself all day long, not ever talking to people, and it's actually kind of helping with that. I'm not quite so socially stunted as I was 8 months ago.
That's I understand that boat. As my kids say, you're the guy who lives in the basement. So I get that. That has really affected me over the last few years. Like I say it all the time on my channel, I'm not a storyteller, and I feel like working by myself for so many years has kind of it's made that a little more difficult for me. But it's getting better. I can tell it's getting better. Well, I would say, I mean, I watch your channel, and just that action alone, I mean, you're definitely made for this style of production. Production being Twitch, not production of your pots or your cups there, which I mean you're doing anyways. So I think that you've got a natural you've got a natural tendency towards performance. So I mean you're doing fine. The storytelling part,
gabbing with people,
gabbing. I think that's the thing, and you call it chitty chat, which I understand. You know, I think at this point we all do. But that's really what it comes down to: is can you sustain small talk? But honestly, small talk from a one-sided, because you're the only one talking.
Yeah.
So, but you find yourself, like I find myself now. I can talk to anybody about pretty much anything. We went to Disney World and I'm standing in line with my kids, and if I could start up a chat with anybody, because I'm so used to just talking one-sided and just trying to entertain on that. Now, do you find that you're coming out of your shell now from being isolated to now because of the streaming and such?
I'd say a little more, yeah. I would say so. I'm less quiet than I was before streaming. You know, before I just kind of, not say much and be off in my own world. You know, you just kind of stick to what you know, and what I knew for 6 years was just hanging out. I mean, of course, I had my wife and stuff and family, but that was about it as far as the social interaction goes.
Now, I find that I'm still not terribly socially interactive, like in a professional. Like, I still, the only people I see are you guys. I mean, it's like I see the stream people more than I see people outside of the world. You were going to say something. I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you there.
Oh, I was going to ask you what your favorite ride at Disney World is.
The ride, from nostalgia point of view, it's the Journey to Tomorrow inside the giant Epcot ball, but that's just because that was my favorite one when I was a kid. But now I would say that Universal kind of trumped Disney for me. I think that Disney is more geared towards adult escapism than Disney is, and so I would go live in that Harry Potter world for days if I could. And
I didn't get to go to Universal. We went to Disney World when I was a teenager, but we just did Disney.
But I would recommend it if if you could. I have offended Emily here by saying that. We aren't friends anymore. So it's. Yeah, I enjoyed both of them. The kids see a magic in Disney that, because of the industry that I work in, I can see through now. So, I mean, but that's a conversation for another day. So do you see yourself doing the streaming thing for a while?
Yeah. I don't see any reason to stop now. It's been a blast. You know, one of the things I've loved most about it is meeting other professionals doing their stuff. And the Twitch creative community is just so incredibly supportive. You know, it's been a blast, and making all the new friends. So
I find that I find myself challenged with ideas from watching other streamers, because working by myself, I'll watch the occasional YouTube video here, and I'm always like doing research and stuff, but as far as like my style or whatever, I'm very much I was very narrow focused because of what I was doing, because I wasn't interacting with a lot of other creatives. And now that I'm on the Twitch world, I find inspiration from watching a lot of you guys out there as well, and I think that that's been a nice creative kick in the ass in the year that I've been doing this, and it's because the creatives, we all think we're isolated, but but we're not. I mean, it's a very small world in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah, that's been really stimulating to me too. Like as a young man, I enjoyed making videos. So I played with video editors. I did some stop motion stuff back when I was in high school, and this the Twitch thing is like it's like a production, you know, and you're just working on this little project. It's been very what's the word for it? Creatively stimulating to me. Now, you were talking about, do I do anything like out of the ordinary? I'd say Twitch is probably doing that for me right now, more than any of the other stuff. And the figuring out the technical things, and you know, pushing the finagling. It's really been a lot of fun to me.
I agree. I find now I guess I'll ask you: are you shooting for a perfected production quality, or do you think leaving it a little loosey-goosey keeps it more creative, or keeps it more homey? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. It's like,
yeah. I've always been. I'm not a perfect. That's what drew me to clay. I feel like, to begin with. Number one, like the directness of it. You can add, you can take away, push, pull it. But also, it is impossible to make something out of clay that is absolutely perfect. Like, it's just unachievable. And that's one of the reasons that that's how I work. I think that my stream will be an ever-evolving thing. There's always going to be something to work on. It's never going to be perfect, and I like that. What about you? Are you going for perfection?
Actually, that was one of the first comments that I got. I was streaming, and I had a friend say, "Hey, can I call you?" And I'm like, "Well, that's weird, but sure." You know, so I gave him my phone number, and he called me up, and he's like, "I just want to say, quit trying so hard." Because you're shooting for this level of perfection that actually makes you look too generic. And so I'm like, well, all right. He said, like, one of the biggest things is you know, when you're taking photos of your work, you're always making it, you know, you're green screening it, or you're putting on this beautiful background and stuff. He's like, hold it in your hand and show your shitty, you know, your workshop, because that's what shows that it's handmade, or that's handcrafted. You're not a machine, you know. And so that's what I you know, so I'm like, okay, no. So now I'm actually shooting for trying to keep things less like hovering on that fine line of professional enough that I don't look amateurish, but not so professional that it looks too clean cut, you know. Yeah,
I don't think I'm close to the professional line yet.
I don't know. You've got, I mean, it's about adding the tweaks and, you know, the bells and the whistles to the stream. You know, your sound, as I'm being told I don't have enough sound effects. That's something I'm adding 2019. You know, honestly, thanks to you, I've got a Be Right back screen that's all video, because I watched yours and I'm like, damn, that's clever. You know, it's just
actually, I saw Tom Chi's BRB, and I was like, I gotta make one of those.
and here we are, all stealing from each other. That's how it goes. But honestly, if I hadn't been watching you and you hadn't been watching Tom Chi, you wouldn't have had that idea. And so, you know, it being around the creatives as you are, you're finding that this stuff is, you're bettering yourself and your stream by being around other creatives.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Trying to think of other questions that I want to ask. Oh, I've got you. I got you cornered here. I can ask you other questions. So you got. Is there something that you're such a character? Like, where's that come from? Because obviously you're not a. I mean, well, I guess you are a performer. You were a musician for a while. So I'm like, but you are definitely. You perform well for the camera. I would have thought you were an actor at one point.
I'm basically a 34-year-old.
You cut out there, so it said you're a 34-year-old. So basically, I'm a 34-year-old.
I'm basically a 34-year-old kid, just a big kid. It's basically what you guys see of me is like how I am with my family, like how I am with my kids, you know. And I don't take things very seriously, period. So
Now, does that affect your work at all? I mean, like the actual business side of the work?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. It did in the beginning. I am a professional. I'm not a very organized person. But I gotta be, because, you know, it's my job, supporting my family. So do what you gotta do kind of thing. But yeah, it did. Earlier on, it did. It took a long time to build up to this capacity for production and maintaining the office stuff as well.
Now, did having the family that, I mean, I got, you know, because it sounds like we got married about the same age ish, and you know, you start out, you got big dreams, and you're gonna do all this other stuff, but then when you start incorporating the small people into the life, then you're like, oh crap, I gotta adult up here. It's not all about just living by the seat of my pants type situation. Is that? Did you feel the same thing? That new responsibility really kicked things into high gear for you as far as?
You know, it actually absolutely. Kids change you so much. It's wild. And me and Megs, we say all the time, like, how in the world did we not get more stuff done before having children? Like, how did we not accomplish all of these things? What were we doing with our lives? But yeah, it really it introduces a new brand of responsibility. I guess
it does.
Would be a good way to put it.
Shay asks, did your kids make you more disciplined? I don't think it's disciplined. I think much like when you write a paper and you procrastinate to the last minute, and then the paper, you can just like pour it out if you're writing and stuff, or it's that last minute, your time away from children to do the thing that makes you is so finite that you really can cram the best of your stuff into a smaller amount of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I would say kids absolutely made me more disciplined, 100%. It required a discipline of me that I did not previously have. Sorry, I forgot how to speak for a second.
I don't think it's the message is kids make you more efficient. I think kids occupy a lot of your time, especially the little ones.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be a human after that, you've got to really push. You've got to really push your limits and your ability to move and do things in a little amount of time that you have. So, but no, I don't think there's any reason to, you know, like you got to be an adult, but you don't need to adult up. I think is one of the biggest. You've got to become more responsible. I think you just need to figure out how to work that responsibility into things. So, yeah, and. You know, like if you look around my space, it's nothing but toys, and it's one of the things that I try to instill in my kids is that, like my oldest one, he had an existential crisis at like 9 because he started to panic that he was going to grow up and no longer get to be a kid, and he like really internalized that and had a moment. And I'm like, you don't have to. I say you get older, that you can't stop, but you don't have to grow up. And I think watching all of us, we're like, look at it, we literally play for a living. And, you know, it's just, you've got to just figure out how to turn your play into something that you can sustain yourself on.
Man, I can remember having the exact same kid. Like, I had my Star Wars guys, and I was probably a little too old to be playing with Star Wars guys, honestly. I was probably like a young teenager. And I was like, man, one of these days I'm not going to like these. And that makes me sad. And I seriously remember having that thought. But you know what? I still love playing with toys.
I'll sit down with my kids and just be like, "Yep, we're gonna action figure around." I said, "I don't mind that at all."
Yeah.
Now I get to do things like I had one of my kids come home one day, and it was my oldest one again. He was sad because he's in 6th grade now, and one of the kids told him that there's no Santa Claus, and it broke his little heart. And I'm like, "What does your dad do for a living?" He goes, well, you make things. I'm like, what do I make? He goes, you make toys and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, who else does that? And he's like, well, Santa. I'm like, yeah, so your dad is Santa Claus for geeks. He says, you know, you believe what you want. Just your friends are wrong. So it kind of gives them that, you know, that little bit of childhood back. And I think you've got to hang on to that. And if you're able to, as an adult, hang on to the joy we had when we were kids and being creative, that's who grows up to be the. You become a better person, I think, in the long run. If you can remember that being that kid and still being able to be a kid while being an adult and doing the adult crap you don't want to necessarily do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after this big push for Christmas and the holidays and such, pow, do you get a break at all, or do you just keep plodding along?
I've got to take a little bit of a break to at least clean my studio. If you guys can see this place, it is nasty. It's like I'm just sitting like this. It's not so bad right here, but the rest of it's filth. I'm literally sitting in a pile of filth. So I got to take care of that. I will be taking some time off, some days here and there, not like an extended spell of a week off or whatever, because I mean, I've still got orders to fill and that kind of thing. But there will be some scheduled time for maintenance, upkeep, just kind of resetting things, you know. Coming up, always come up with a new schedule every year. Not necessarily work schedule, but a new plan, if you get what I'm saying.
Now, do you find that there's a like you're trying to basically avoid the monotony of creativity, as I assume is why you're switching up your plans?
Yeah, well, not necessarily changing up how I do. Like, I've been seat of the pant since about September now, just reacting to things. January usually affords me time to take a deep breath. Okay, organize. Okay, this is from January through summer. It's stockpiling months. You know, it's not like just reacting to things out of stock or getting orders out, that kind of thing. It's sorry, totally lost my focus. I got distracted.
It happens.
Most of the time it's autopilot, but I was thinking about that previous mug.
What were you thinking? I want to know. What were you thinking about that previous mug?
I have to make these for a stamp. I have this stamp right here. I'll show you guys. And it has to be a specific height. So I was trying to gauge whether or not I'd be able to cram the second stamp that goes on the bottom of this. So this is for a
yeah, that's all burned out, so we can't really see it. But okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy crap, will it work? So
I was like, oh man, I'm supposed to be making these for. But I think it's going to work. But yeah, just resetting the plans. I'd like to get back in the gym. I haven't been in the gym since September, and that's a big deal for me as far as maintaining my stress levels and, you know, clarity of mind and things. Basically, the end of the year is a reset switch.
Okay.
You know, so I'm gonna turn around and say I'm gonna do it better next year. I'm gonna make it a little bit better.
I think that's a smart plan to have too, because then you don't get stuck. Yeah, and it allows you to assess. Now, do you find that, like when I first started out, I would have a couple months where things would just die, and I thought to myself, my business is failing. I'm never going to do this again. I might as well just go get a job at the grocery store. But obviously in the future, now I can look back and I can see things in graph form. I can be like, no, there are slow times in the year. You just got to get used to that. Did you find the same thing with you? Or, I mean, do you have times where it's like, no, this is just a dead period this month here or this month there?
Historically, we've made like all our money. It's been like that. We have had moments of crisis in the business where, like, okay, I don't know if we're going to be able to, you know, keep doing this. I actually was considering going back to get my master's a couple of years into the business because we wanted to have kids, you know, and it was just not quite good enough for it to sustain a family. I fixed it.
That one's already done. You just re-pushed us. So do you think? So you have a bachelor's degree then in it?
Yep.
Okay.
Bachelor's degree, fine arts. I focused in ceramics and printmaking.
Now, do you find that having the career, or having the degree, has helped your career?
Absolutely. Actually, early on when I started in galleries, it helped a ton. You know, just get your foot in the door.
Sure.
You know, but actually, the technical skills I learned in college were crucial to starting this place up. I worked for the university in the clay department. That was almost as valuable as the degree itself, because I was doing the kilns, doing the glaze mixing the clay, learning about like maintaining an art studio, basically doing the cleanup. You know, don't sweep the floors, spray the floors, when to wear your mask. You know, all those things that aren't necessarily taught in a class. You know,
right?
Because you just go in, sit down at your table, and start working in college class. But I'd say yes, wholeheartedly yes. It's been very beneficial to me.
That was a question that I always got asked by people. Why did you get a degree in art? And I said, well, why did I get a master's degree? That was the big one that I got. Why'd you go get a master's degree when you could have just gone out and worked? And I said, well, it was like 3 years of extra practice, and I got advice from people I had never met before. And I thought that made a huge difference in how I became, you know, where I became as a designer goes. And I can see that, you know, working in a shop. I mean, you could have gone out and done practical experience, but you might not have gotten the same information, because I find that there, especially in like a professional atmosphere, a lot of the information that is necessary is so necessary that most people forget to tell you it because they just assume you know.
Yeah.
And you can run into issues there. So as far as like starting up a business, because you said you just one day you're just like, I'm gonna have a pottery business. I mean, how long did it take you to like really get off the ground with it?
Well, let's see. I actually, right out of school, I went for my little brother, who's also an entrepreneur. He restores classic cars. So I went to work for him in January, and I'd been planning on it during college. I was going to open my place. I was actually going to open it up with a friend of mine who lives about an hour away. And it ended up, he wanted to open the business in Birmingham, and I wanted to be here, up north about an hour. So it took a while to kind of figure all those things out. But we opened, we started preparing to open the doors in the summertime. So it took about 6 to 8 months. The first year I made $500.
Woohoo!
Gross. And it was more like, you know, tens and twenties of thousands of dollars, kind of like getting the equipment and stuff I needed to start.
Hadouken! Okay, so...
Hadouken, baby.
That's right. Do you feel that, like, when that was happening, I mean, I assume that you had a job on the side while you were making your $500 that first year?
Sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, hey, okay, so, I said, that first year when you made your 500 gross, I assume you had a side job as well that was helping to sustain you?
Actually, my Megs had a business job at the time.
Ah, okay.
So she was sustaining us. But then in the spring, I still had the studio. I had a couple of adult classes going. Wasn't making a ton of money, but Megan said, I'm not going to be able to do this for the long haul. It's like, I don't like doing this. And I said, okay, well, come to work with me. We'll make it work. And she did. She quit her job. And then we got to the drawing board and figured it out. That's when we started doing the kids classes for the monthly sustainable income. Okay. And around about that time, I started making my first face mugs. Just right shortly after she came on board. So by the next year, we had started Etsy, We'd started shipping mugs. We'd started picking up wholesale stores. 2009 was when that stuff kind of kicked off and got started. Somehow, some way, we're still here.
And I think that, and honestly, it's what you put out, you get back. And I think that just, you know, your mantra, you know, the ideas behind the work that you're doing, I think that's why and that's how. So, yeah, Shay does have a question I was going to ask you earlier watching you do this. What hand care regimen do you use? Because I assume your hands have got to be the driest things. My poor kid's feet are super dry, so I'm really curious. What do you use?
Really, it's not so bad. I use Aveeno colloidal oatmeal lotion. I got a bottle in there by the sink. When I wash my hands, I put lotion on. When I wash my hands at the house, I put lotion on. It's really the constant wet dry that kind of fires them up. The clay's not so bad. I do have some kind of eczema that pops up every now and then on a couple of my fingers, but it's just a matter of trying to keep it dry most of the time.
So we're moving on to questions here because some of these questions are getting pretty good. So has he ever slung a mug off when he flips them in the air on stream or anything like that? When you
Nope, not yet. I'm still good.
So I assume
I better not drop one on your stream. If I'm gonna drop one, it's gonna be on mine.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because you gotta clip that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I assume they're stuck pretty well. You know.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you can't pull this mug off of the bat without breaking it. You got to cut it off.
Like that. Yeah. So it will be clipped. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, so we're gonna say, does anybody? We're gonna move on to questions. So if people have questions for Uggs, I'm gonna go through here because there was a couple that were up there.
I want to say hey to everybody. Can we say hey to everybody?
Sure, absolutely. Let's say hey to people. So we got Emily.
Hey Rack.
We got.
Hey Base Cut. Tater Crater.
Shiraz. Hello.
Relions.
Relions is here. Raccoon.
Oh hey you guys, it's Colleen.
Aaron Music. Hey. Yeah, let me see. I did. How many keyboards do you go through in a year? Looking at that beautiful thing off to your right there.
How many keyboards have I used? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Sorry, you broke up. This is the only one that I've had while I've been streaming. I've had another Amazon Basics keyboard. As far as I know, it still works, but I'm using this one now because it's wireless.
It's
beautiful.
It looks rough, my friend. It looks rough. Let me see. I'm looking for questions here, guys. I'm kind of going back through.
Colleen asked about being an apprentice.
Oh, okay. That must be a new question there.
And,
all right.
Nope, never apprenticed with anybody.
So
I've had an apprentice, but I've not been an apprentice.
Now, when you were apprenticing, when you were mentoring an apprentice, were you trying to teach them your style, or are you just trying to teach them how to do the work?
Basically teaching them how to be a professional potter, how to make, sell, make, market, and sell things. How to be a professional. In exchange, they work for you.
Okay. Which guitar is your favorite, or guitar, as B. Scott puts it?
Jenny. Jenny is my favorite, but don't tell Jessica because she's jealous. She might slash my tires or something. Fuck no.
Let me see. Do you ever think you would add wood firing to your glaze routine?
No, probably not. I've actually never been drawn to things. It's always been the making side of things. My finishes are not fancy. I use 4 glazes. Keep it simple is my motto in that department, and wood firing would be way too much maintenance for me. I use electric kilns, so basically you set it and you forget it. Computer controlled, easy peasy.
Shay asks, why the face? Well, that was covered at the beginning there, Shay.
Yes, Shay.
How did you stumble into the face
It's actually something that I've always done. I've always, even when I was a kid, I was drawing pictures of faces and facial expressions. I just always been drawn to it. Even in college, even my more serious artwork, I was doing face sculpture. My prints revolved around faces. It's just a thing. It's one of my things.
Okay, that's fair. Will there be other faces? I mean, I know you're constantly adding.
Yeah, there will be. I add styles every single year. You know, some of them may not stay, some come and go, but yep, there's always going to be something new. This year I got to make a horse and a unicorn. Oh. But I got to make a horse first before I can make a unicorn. So.
Isn't a unicorn just a horse with a horn? Mm-hmm. Or just a one-horned goat? All right. More Mises, apparently. Do we have any other questions for Uggs here? Caricatures of people. Have you? Yeah, I guess that was a question. Do you try to make them look like specific people, or are they just faces in general?
I do that every now and then. I did one Greek Mustachio not too long ago. If y'all saw that, it's Greek Mugstachio. But every now and then, I try not to make that a thing, because then I will have to do that thing all the time, and it's I feel like doing the character mugs. They take a lot. They take time away from the other work, and I got to be like producing things to keep up. Sure.
So now I know. Have you ever been? Let me see. What's your favorite custom UgChugs mug you've made?
I do have a least favorite.
Oh, that's always way more interesting than the favorite. What is your least favorite?
Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say blackface, right? I had this customer draw a picture of a mug, and they wanted it to be black with red lips, and they wanted the lips to be big and to be a certain size. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I could do that. Didn't think about it. Didn't cross my mind that it would look racially insensitive in any way. It looked very, very racially insensitive. And I sent the picture and to the lady, and I was like, I don't think I can sell you this mug in good conscience. And she's like, yeah, I don't want it. So yeah. I destroyed it. Okay. I dropped it into the fires of Mordor, and yeah.
That's good though. That's good though.
No one will ever know or never see it, because then I'd be forever branded a racist. That was my least favorite custom.
Okay. Right.
As far as favorites go, I don't know. No. Okay. But I very clearly have a least favorite.
That's fine. Have you ever been inspired at all by the tradition of Southern face jugs?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I do, and I read about them. I think when I was in college, I started experimenting with face pottery because of that old Southern tradition. So
here you are, 17 years later, 16 years later. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a music note stamp design on your mugs?
I have not.
Well, then there you go. Rakuga, 23. You need to inquire about that. You'll be the first.
Lots of little, other designs: hearts, crosses, leaves. I do state stamps. I mean, I don't do all kinds of designs, but I've never done a music note.
Cool.
Not opposed to it.
Who writes the biographies for the mugs?
Mostly Megan, but we double team them. She's more efficient at doing that than I am. It takes me a little while to write one of their personality.
Do you reuse? Should we say that one out loud? Have you ever just like, we've already written that one before, we're just gonna throw it on this mug again?
Yeah, actually, we do. I mean, it would be impossible. I mean, you think about thousands and thousands of mugs in a year. They're not all, you know, a unique story, but they do become tied to a production style. So like my mugs are not completely one-offs. They're not completely like, let's see if I got some examples. I can show you guys some examples. They're all different. They're all unique, but they have similar configuration. Like we have 7 production styles. One has 7 teeth, 7 teeth and 2 eyes, but and that's branded our cheerful toothy style. But you know, the teeth are in a different place, the eyes are a different place. You know, they're cross-eyed, they're not cross-eyed, the color's a little different. So we sell, you know, hundreds of Luke personality mugs. That's sure. Actually our keto diet mug. He's pretty popular. But yes, we do reuse the personalities. We have hundreds and hundreds of personalities, though. I mean, we constantly add them, but they do get reused.
I mean, it's efficient. I mean, there's only so much you can do. So, an important question here: pineapple on a pizza?
Yes.
Good man.
Hawaiian pizza is good. Good now and then. That's a good question. People either love that or hate it.
I love it. I think there's something with the sweet and the salty. You got to mix those two together every once in a while. So, why do I feel like I am in an elevator? That's because of the music that we have to choose from. Thanks, Twitch. If we from
oh, that's a good idea, Emily.
Yeah, if we could buy personalities for mugs. Oh, so Kit Kat or Snickers? Which one's better?
Snickers, but Kit Kat's pretty good too.
Kit Kat is pretty good. I think it depends on what you're after. Are you looking for a treat, or if you're looking for something that's going to sustain you a little while? Because Snickers is going to sustain you, but a Kit Kat's a delicious treat. So, all right. Any other questions for Mr. UgChugs before we say goodbye and let him get to work? Not that he's stopped since we've started talking here. Has it been asked, have you ever dropped one when you do the flip? No, he has not. Not yet. Not on stream.
Not yet.
Or not that he'll own up to.
Nope, never have.
Oh, that's awesome. So the bases that they're on, what is that material?
I have some that are masonite and some plastic.
Plastic was the other word there?
Plastic, yeah, and masonite. Okay. The plastic ones are a little better, but they're expensive, comparatively speaking.
So masonite, I know, doesn't handle water very well. So how's that working out for you?
Or is they're really not really well. To sit and dry completely on them.
Oh, okay. Because so it's got to be hardboard on both sides. That's just me getting all nerdy with technical talk. So,
well, I don't know. I don't know if it's specifically what the of these are, but it's like a particle board kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Chocolate or vanilla? I guess would be the last question here. So.
Oh man. Depends on what you're in the mood for.
Well, we obviously went strawberry with the ice cream, so that's a way to skirt that issue.
I am not a chocolate ice cream fan. I do like chocolate sauce and ice cream, but not chocolate ice cream. So, in my opinion.
I'll agree with that one as well. Well, all right. Well, then we'll wrap it up here. It's been a little over an hour. I do appreciate you spending the time to talk with me, Uggs. Now, because of you, you actually have started a few things with us. One of them being the I drink with streamers as well as I party with streamers, and we're going to do eventually I game with streamers and stuff. And this Sexy Streamers Club, which you also helped to start there. So, okay, wait, Lefty's got a question. So, you're really helping to reach out and helping to bring the creative community a little bit closer, especially in the Twitch world. So I would like to thank you for that as well, because I think it's helping make everything a better place. All right. One last question before we wrap this up, which is, what is the most secret cheesy song that you like? That's a good end question there.
Turn around, Brian, every now and then I fall apart, and I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever. That one.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna bid adieu to you as well. But thank you everybody for joining us. Join us next week, same bat time, same bat channel, for some more Ice Cream with Streamers.